The Push for More podcast.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking to Bryce Frederick here at the Diamond Collective in Baltimore City. And we're going to get right into it today with Bryce. Bryce, thanks for doing this for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate you being here today. First of all, I want to talk about your time at high school, Delaney Valley High School. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences there and baseball and so forth?
Yeah, it was awesome. I built some great friendships kind of in middle school, and they really blossomed there at Delaney. There's some amazing people there, facility-wise and staff-wise, and it was a great experience. There's a very common conception or perception that you got to go to a private school and you got to have all these things to kind of make it athletically, and I kind of took pride in that didn't have to be my story. I stuck it out with some people that I loved and built some great relationships and played hard there and really enjoyed it. And it was a really, really great spot for me personally and athletically both.
And your position there in baseball was shortstop.
Yep.
And can you tell us a little bit about your time playing shortstop with Delaney?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I came in there right away, and I started game one as a freshman, and I played every inning until I graduated. That was a big part of the appeal. I always tell guys, like, it's tough to get to the next level if you're not on the field. If you can't be recruited or you can't be scouted because you're not playing, that should be your first priority. And I was on the field for the whole experience. We went like 73-12 in those 4 years.
Awesome.
We certainly faced some adversity, and then I was blessed with the ability to be on the field, like I said, and that led to some statistical records and some other things that I was able to set while I was there. So it kind of let me be myself and do my thing and find some success. And like I said, I wouldn't have traded it for the world. It was a really good experience.
And scholastically, what was your major as far as looking at college?
Yeah, I think I was always business minded. I was definitely more like reading, writing, English than I was math and science. So I always took the APs. I always did the history classes. I always tried to get as much college credit as I could as early as possible. Made it a little bit easier for when I eventually got there. But yeah, it was kind of a great class workload. I think my classmates were phenomenal. I think my class had probably 8 or 9 Ivy League students in it. So the people I was working with every day were challenging me academically too. So that was a pretty cool experience, and we definitely saw a lot of strides together there in that way too. But it was definitely very business-oriented focus, and it set me up pretty well for college, I would definitely say.
And you build friendships for life, and
Absolutely.
that's always a great thing.
Absolutely.
Let's transition into your college life. You went to down in Virginia
Yep.
for 1 year.
Yeah,
played ball there.
I was down in Radford. I started there. They were my best offer out of high school. I talked to a handful of schools, and I liked the town. It was a big change of pace from where I was from being around here. It's a very small country town, Main Street type of thing. And I went there. I met some amazing people there. I loved the town. Like I said, it was a great change of pace. It allowed me to focus on school, allowed me to focus on my craft. It allowed me to meet people from all different walks of life in that part of the country. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty cool place.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town.
It is.
And so then you kind of moved over to come back to Baltimore County, and you went to Towson University.
Yeah, so I was down there at Radford for like an early summer mini-mester, kind of get used to the courses, get used to the town. And like 2 months or 2 weeks into that 1 month I was down there, they made a coaching change like right before we were all supposed to report. So the guy I signed to play for really liked me. I liked him. That was our agreement. I was coming to play for him. They made a change and kind of had to bite the bullet at that point. I can't back out from that perspective. So spent the whole year down there at Radford playing for a guy that we saw different on a lot of things. And obviously the offer I had and the scholarship money and things they want back. So as the season was kind of rolling, I made up in my mind, like when the season's over, I'm ready to get out of here. Towson was my first offer out of high school, so I knew that they were fond of me for all those years. And I had that COVID year back. So we got like 16 or 17 games into the season. We lost the rest of that 2020 season, and it gave me the ability in April to come back home, recollect, get in the transfer portal. Towson knew I was getting into the portal from a third party that kind of tipped him off. as soon as I got in, they reached out and we just kind of, relooked at what our deal was. And I said, that's the place I wanted to be. They were turning it around at the time. They had a good roster and I liked what they had. So I think that was my best personal fit.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
in 2015,
Yeah.
you came up with an 8-year plan.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was something I did personally. I just kind of wrote down all my goals. I wanted to be a certain kind of student. I wanted to be a certain kind of citizen. I wanted to be a certain kind of friend, and I also wanted to accomplish a lot of things athletically. For a long time there, for the ensuing 8 years, everything I wrote down got accomplished. I mean, obviously, I wanted to play pro baseball. That was my ultimate dream. That's probably the only thing on there that I can sit here and admit that didn't get done. Mm-hmm. But I'm certainly content with how everything went. But yeah, I wrote that down, stuck it in a Bible on my nightstand. It's still in there. And that was kind of my self-accountability source. And that was a big piece of my guidance, I think, even subconsciously, just knowing that those are my goals and that's what I wanted to see done. And all of it was seen through for the most part. And it happened through a lot of different circumstances too, which was a good lesson to keep going.
I think a lot of youth and a lot of young men and women could really benefit from hearing this and learning about how you did that.
Right.
Because that's very commendable.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing for a young man to do.
I was probably in trouble with my parents at the time.
Oh, wow.
I probably had to sit and do some self-reflecting and figure out what was going on. So,
Sometimes good things come out of bad
absolutely. Absolutely. I was raised that way. I mean, I was raised in a strict household. I mean, a faith-based household for sure, a high accountability household. And if my brother and I misstep sometimes, we always had conversations. So we were always talking about how to grow as people. That taught me a lot. It matured me quick. I have a great relationship with my parents today. We're great friends, I would even say. Mm-hmm. But growing up, it was definitely a challenge in terms of being on my P's and Q's all the time. So I'm sure that's probably where it stemmed out of. But it held me accountable for all those years after. So I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Excellent. I understand that you have type 1 diabetes.
I do, yep.
And that has been a challenge, but also an opportunity for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I can go back to when that started. I was in a routine physical. Everything was all good. I was in my senior year of high school. It was in the fall of my senior year. It was about October, September. And my doctor wanted me to go and get some blood work done, so I got some blood drawn. Everything came back good, but my blood glucose was a little bit higher than what average is. It was like 145-ish, right? And for the average scale, it's normally about 70 to 100. So it was just a number they flagged, and I went back for a couple more tests, and I thought it was just a diet thing or a workout thing. I would eat a lot, maintain weight, whatever else, and it ended up being that I had the beta cells that kill my insulin makers in my system, but it hadn't fully started yet. So it was just something to kind of look out for and learn and figure out what was going to happen. So it took 6 months for that to develop. I played my whole senior season that next spring without anybody really knowing except for my close friends and family. And then I just kind of took it as my own thing. I handled it super independently and then had a lot of opportunity moving forward to impact other people through that process. So it's been 6 years now, 6 quick years. I can't really remember a time that I didn't have it. I definitely took for granted being able to do a lot of things in terms of eating on the fly or not being able to calculate, not having to calculate certain meals and figure things out that way. But it's something that helped me through my training and helped me be a resource to other people. So I definitely had to take that in stride.
That's commendable too.
Right.
Blown away by all this. The next thing that you talk about in one of your podcasts is your family and your friends and how they help you push.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Push through.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about your family and your friends and you talked a little bit about your friends earlier, but how they help you become so successful as a young man?
Yeah, I mean they let me be me, and I think that's the biggest thing. My younger brother, he and I did everything together growing up. He's 22 months younger than me, so we were always kind of close in age, running in the same circles, and we were always outside playing. And it was probably going to end in an argument because we were both that competitive, but we had each other for forever, and we still do in a lot of ways. And we grew up in that same kind of environment like I talked about, where we were held accountable and we grew together. My parents did a great job. They've been together for over 25 years now, happily married, and they've set a great example for love and patience and listening and giving thanks and faith and all kinds of things. So Family side, they've been great. I got a bunch of aunts, uncles, and cousins that are great examples to me too. I always wanted to be like them. They were all older than me, and I got to watch them grow and do their thing. And then my friends. I mean, I've been best friends with some of the greatest 8 guys in the world for over 12 years now, and not many people can say that. It's a tough environment, especially now with the social and digital age, and finding friends and keeping friends, and it's a tough world. But I definitely don't take it for granted. There's just some amazing people, and I'm lucky that there's so many of them. And I've met so many of their college roommates and their teammates and their friends and built more friendships off of that. But those guys are all doing great things. They're all in the workforce. They're all super impactful people. They were all highly influential people throughout high school and throughout the local area, and they've done some incredible things that certainly inspire me. But when I was going through my playing days and my journeys and my downfalls and my trials and tribulations, they were always there, and they would always pick me up, and they always knew what to say, and they let me be me, and we formed a really strong bond from that. And I wouldn't give that up for anything.
That's terrific. I mean, that's what you need.
But I know a lot of people can't say that, and I know
Yes.
I know that's something that sets a tough example for people that kind of see what we do. It's a tough expectation to think that that's just going to happen, and I know that doesn't happen anywhere. So I try not to take it for granted.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be good on your own too, and
Right,
it's
right.
good to have the support network.
Absolutely.
It's great to have it, but there's kids and there's youth going through things with no support
Yeah.
mechanism.
And we're not always going to agree on everything either. That's the beauty. I mean, we're still from different perspectives and different backgrounds, and we vote for different people sometimes. Like there's all kinds of things that we bounce off of each other that make us stronger as people. And the other part of it too is if I ever misstepped in my social life or whatever else, they would tell me just as I would tell them, and that's a great thing to have too. Anybody who can hold you accountable. And if you can tell them your goals and tell them I want to be like this or I want to cut this out of my life, and if you have someone that can tell you, you're falling short of what you told me you wanted to do, kind of an accountability partner, that's a great thing to have.
Keeping it real.
As you're developing as well, absolutely.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah.
Who's your hero? Who's your hometown mentor, hero?
I got a few. I always had some great mentors, but in terms of my hero, my oldest cousin had a baby boy when I was about 14, 15 years old, and he was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. So the sizes of his heart were backwards. One side's supposed to be bigger than the other, and his was flipped. So he had some trouble pumping blood through his system, and he had to go through a bunch of open heart surgeries as a small child. And that was my first kind of point in my development where I recognized that what I do every day is something that some people can't. If he made it out of all of his surgeries or if he made it out of all of his tribulations, he could never play sports, for example. And that's something that I took for granted at the time, being 14, 15 with my whole future in front of me. So knowing that was my first reality check that, what I get to do, many people would give up anything to do what I do. He ended up making it through those surgeries. His next one was scheduled in probably 3 to 5 more years, and he ended up getting hit with leukemia just before his 3rd birthday, and he passed when I was a freshman in high school, and that was super impactful to me.
Yes.
That's been a while now, and they did a great job as a family mourning that loss and getting through that and supporting each other. Like I said, that was my cousin, so I got to witness a great family bond in that way. But in terms of people being my hero, that's the strongest person I've ever met, I've ever witnessed, I probably will ever meet, and the people that he impacted obviously still carry his legacy very strong. They have a foundation in his honor that helps out a lot of families that get spread thin with expenses and time for their kids in the hospital. So that is my biggest inspiration, my biggest hero, and he hasn't been with us for a long time, but I carry him with him wherever I go. His name was Logan. This is Logan's Never Be Alone Foundation is their foundation.
Never Be Alone?
Never Be Alone Foundation, yeah.
Okay.
So he's probably my biggest one. And then my cousin Alex was a great one. He was 11 years older than me. He followed the same career path I did at Delaney. He set the all-time hit record there, and then I ended up coming through and breaking it. So I got that over him. But he was a great man for me and for my brother, and I got to witness him and obviously my dad and my grandparents and so many other people. But in terms of people that really laid the foundation for where I was supposed to go, Alex was a big part of that too.
It's a blessing to have that part of your heart.
Absolutely.
To have that part of your inner core being.
Yeah.
To keep that with you, and that's That's very touching.
Yeah, it's always a good reminder. I mean, we go through so many things day in and day out that that we feel like we have to do, or that we struggle getting out of bed sometimes, or we don't want to, cook the meal or do the laundry or whatever else it is, and we give up the idea that so many people would trade whatever they're going through. There's always something worse. There's always something that we don't even think about, right? So we never really have it that bad, no matter what's going on.
Absolutely. So this kind of segue into what I want to ask you next is, how do you stay mentally and physically tough? And how do you stay mentally and physically healthy? It's
tough. I mean, I didn't always stay physically healthy throughout my career. I did in high school. I got to college. I had 2 hamstring pulls. My second year at Towson, which was my third year of college in 2022, I compound fractured, broke my left arm in half diving for a ball in the outfield. So I wasn't always physically healthy. When I was, I loved it. But sometimes you got to be taken out of things like that to remind yourself that it's special when you get to do it.
Yes.
In terms of getting through that kind of stuff and being mentally tough, it's really just day to day. I think being focused on where your feet are and being focused on what's important in the moment. Like, I always tell younger guys, just, if you're in class, that's the most important thing. If you're at practice, that's the most important thing. If you're with your girlfriend, she's the most important thing. Like, whatever you're doing right now is the most important thing. And you can't do the next thing until you accomplish this one. And when days get long, or when rehab sounds long, or when you got 6 months of recovery after a broken arm, or whatever you can do today to get to the next day is all you have control over. And I think when it comes to mental toughness or growing or whatever that looks like, you're only in control of what today is. And that was always my biggest thing, is just being where you are and kind of letting everything that's down the line take care of itself when it gets there.
What advice would you give to student athletes, students in general, to stay on track, to fulfill their legacy?
Right. The first one I always would tell people was just be yourself. It's tough to find people sometimes that are going to ride with you through anything. And sometimes you compromise your own true north or your own morals or values to fit in. And it's easy because not being lonely is a more comfortable option. If you can be like everyone else, it's a help to you. But the people who are supposed to be with you and ride with you and be your people will come to you if you stay true to who you are and what your morals are and what your moral compass is. So it's easy to compromise for everybody else, but you're not going to find the best people that way. The other one is always to ask questions of people that have been where you want to go. That was always one of my big things, and I know you guys emphasize that with the mentorship opportunities, is if there's somebody in business or in baseball or in art or whatever that is creating something or doing something or working in ways that you want to work, if you ask them enough questions and the right questions, they'll open up about themselves. And if you listen, they'll give you the answers. And I think those two things, between being who you are and figuring out who your true north and what your true moral compass is and sticking to that, and then just absorbing information from the people that have been where you want to go, are two great tools that anybody can kind of incorporate. And it's not easy. It's not easy being different.
I ask this question sometimes during the podcast, and I don't always ask it, but I think you would be an ideal candidate for this. Okay, so PUSH, and the push for more, stands for passion, understanding, sacrifice, and hope. And I want to ask you what these 4 words mean to you.
Yeah.
What's passion mean to you?
Passion is just something that you care about, something that gets you out of bed. I think passion is going to keep you doing the right thing when somebody's not watching. It's going to keep you caring. It's going to keep you aware of your surroundings and aware of other people and what they're going through. But it's a self-motivating factor. I think the most successful people that we see day in, day out are self-motivated, when no one's around, and how they can get themselves going. And sometimes you need some inspiration for that, but that's where I would go with passion, I think.
What about understanding?
Understanding is a good kind of form of patience, I think. I think listening to questions and listening to answers and listening and just gaining perspective before making decisions or before being too rash or too emotional. It's just kind of making sure that there's an understanding of your surroundings, understanding of who you're talking to, understanding of emotion, all kinds of things like that. So absorbing as much information as possible is kind of where I would go with understanding.
And what about sacrifice?
Sacrifice, in my opinion, is really one of the most important traits you can have as a young person, as a successful person, as whatever it looks like. Sacrifice is is what kind of keeps you on that true north. There's a lot of times if you're pursuing sport, you got to give up your weekends to go to practice, to go to games. You're not hanging out with your friends. There's times in high school and college or socially that you got to give up the late nights to have the early mornings, or you got to give up certain options or certain things that are popular. And that's kind of what keeps you who you are. Once you figure out who you are as an individual, sacrifice becomes a lot easier. But it is a very necessary trait for success, I think, at the end of the day.
And finally, what's hope mean to you?
Hope is a big one. I mean, I'm a very faithful person. I put a lot of my hope and faith kind of in the same type of category.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I get anxious or when I get worried or when I get lost, I like to go to Scripture. I like to go to my past experiences. I love some certain sermons that are out there. So hope is just knowing that you're in control of right now, obviously, and then whatever is supposed to happen after that is what's going to happen. But to me, it means that the Lord's in control and that His will is going to be done, and I can live with that. I can appreciate the good and the bad. I always used to say there's no such thing as bad news. There's just news, and how you take it and what you do with it makes it good or bad. But just knowing that there is a tomorrow and you will get rewarded for your efforts today kind of is where I feel hope stands.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what PUSH stands for.
Yeah,
Thank you.
go.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming in.
You got it. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, this is a great facility here. If anybody wants to check out the Diamond Collective in Baltimore City, it's a great place. They have Bubba Sports working on the interior, and look it up.
Yeah, for sure. No, Bubba's done some great things for a long time, and our motives are very similar to what PUSH is doing with mentorship and with community work and impacting the youth. We serve underserved communities and try to use baseball as a medium for growing in life and growing in the classroom and giving us some resources and mentorship and community service and bundling all that together. So we do that down here. And I think there's a lot of great potential collaboration between what Bubba does and what Push for More does, and we can certainly work that out and see some special things happen. But the opportunity to be here is what it's all about. We can't do anything without each other. So
thanks, Bryce.
That's life.
Thank you.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Push for More podcast. To join our mentor network or appear on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us at thepushformore.com.
And if you have the means, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to help support our mission.
Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Every little bit helps us push forward.
Round 2.